Suppose, let us learn about, is it an easy job or a difficult job? Let us paint a big picture so that those who are willing to take it as a subject get everything that what they want to understand. Number one, when we say that history as an optional is scoring or not scoring, it is definitely scoring. It is the bad answers that are written that fetch bad marks, and the overall average of history gets deteriorated. If you know what to write, you will precisely have an understanding, you will know, and you will get the highest marks. If I remember it right, I saw an interview, a student, a 22-year-old, scored about 304 marks from JNU, if I remember it right. He was graduated from DU and then pursued his master's from JNU. That gentleman scored 300 plus marks. It does not happen anywhere. He scored, if I remember again, in the paper 1, he scored 120. And in paper 2, he scored 180. This is the marks. Even if you normalize, 120 can be definitely made better, about 130, 140. And here 180 is very good marks. It can be at least 150, 160. Thereby you will be it is easy and making an average of 280 plus with the right approach. What is the right approach? Let us have a look. That means when we say history is not scoring, it is absolutely a misnomer. It is a false information. And we will make sure you all as a collective have that score. Once you clear the prelims, you should have all the elements to score this amount of marks. We'll try to ensure the same. Now see why history, also it goes for geography, is very, very easy to score that marks. See, history, it is divided into paper 1 and paper 2. For understand, history has no shock for those, if we make a comparative analysis. No subject is bad, no subject is good. We are not going to undermine any other optional. Nonetheless, for a qualitative understanding, as history takes the criticism from other optionals, you need to understand, for suppose PABAD, for suppose PSIR, they have a lot of dynamism, a part of it. In comparison, the history is very much predictable. There are only certain topics which have relevance with current affairs. Suppose again, in the next year, the Rampa Rebellion is going to be famous for their 100-year celebration. That means UPSC can ask regarding tribal rebellion with relevance to Alluri Sitarama Raju. The prediction and association with current affairs is only to this extent. If the government is celebrating about a Bhakti Saint Ramanuja, his philosophy, ideas, opinions can be asked. If the government talks about the Cholas, or it is celebrated, or any particular site is given UNESCO, a part of UNESCO heritage site, there will be a question in your history optional, but there will be no shock whatsoever. It is highly predictable, and with 100% accuracy. I have my older students as well. With their preparation of GS, they can look into the previous year's question papers. There will be a fair number of questions from their GS preparation they can solve. For example, for modern India, the GS preparation is 100% essential for your optional. You have to do very little apart from that. Some chapters are there nonetheless, but you will be able to solve all the questions in your optional. For suppose ancient and medieval, it is roughly, plus art and culture, suppose it is roughly 30 to 40%. Maybe more than that. You prepare for GS, it will have a carryover effect in your optional. For world history, it is roughly about 30 to 40%. That is similar to that your preparation for GS that will be carried over to your optional. So definitely it seems like a win-win situation. It seems like you will benefit from this venture. Now see, why am I saying the preparation process is rather easy? Suppose there is paper 1. You have to prepare your strategy. I'm not saying the strategy will be same for all. I'm talking about a simple strategy probably adopted by me. Let's take it for example. Here, paper 1 has 2 segments, ancient India and medieval India. See, here paper 1 has a mandatory map pointing. Some students get motivated with map pointing. Some students get extremely discouraged as to they cannot solve the map pointings. A very basic job is the analysis of the previous year's questions. With at least 60% plus accuracy, you will be solving it. That means the total marks allotted is 50 marks, 10 map pointings. 6 of them you will definitely have a clue from the PYQs. About 4 of them it will need a lot of attention. That means the special students who have made conscious attempts regarding map pointing, they can solve. At any cost, it is very easy to solve get about 30 plus marks. It is extremely easy to get out of 50 to get 30 plus marks. If I'm saying if I've given due share of attention, it will be very close to 40 marks. It is very easy to rather. That means you have analyzed the previous year's question papers, and you have clubbed it into different segments, right? For example, you have learned about the temples and you have categorized them into Nagara style, that means Northern Indian style, Vesara style, that means Deccan style, and Dravida style, that means Southern Indian style. You have prepared. Under the Nagara style, you have learned about the Gupta school, you have learned about the Eastern Bengal school, you have learned about the Odia school, you have learned about the Gujarat Rajasthan school, you have learned about, that means what? It is rather easy. You get that blank piece of paper. In our curriculum, we have designed a particular model, and also it is going to be successful with your help as well. Students, generally speaking, are a passive spectator, a passive recipient of the lectures. We will try to also address this problem in the optional classes. For you will have the responsibility of analyzing these sites. There are certain Paleolithic sites. There are certain Paleolithic which are also Neolithic. Neolithic which are also Chalcolithic. So there are only a list of suppose 10 sites. You do not do it in one day. You do 2 sites or 3 sites a day, and you do it for the next year. Definitely with it, it can be also said that about 80 to 90, maybe with 100% accuracy, that you will be able to solve all the map pointings. That is directly 50 marks. That is a huge deal. Suppose there are questions regarding seaports, ancient seaports. Or suppose a clue there is that, for example, the French settlements and as a pointing in Eastern India. So it is rather easy that it is Odisha coast, it should be Balasore, French factory. For example, a French factory in Bengal region, it can be Chandan Nagar. If in the mainland Bengal region, it can be Kashim Bazar. It is not a very difficult job. You make a separate list for map pointings. For a list of ports, you identify Tondai, Muzuri, Machilipatnam, all the kind of Surat, all the kind of lists. You have it in one place, and you do every day a small portion of your job. Also, the standard characteristics are rather same. There are standard characteristics of Paleolithic sites. If you can identify it as a Paleolithic site, you will write down the generic points. Suppose every point, every site, you have to write 5 or 6 lines. You can write down the general observations and certain 1 or 2 facts special to the site. You will be given the ideal marks. So thereby 1, it is gone. You are left with 4 questions. Also understand what is the pattern. There are a total of 5 questions. That is of each will be of 50 marker. It can be 15, 15, 20. It can be 20, 20, 10 upon the discretion of the paper setter. That means roughly you have to prepare topics for 300 word plus. For every topic, if you have prepared for 300 plus words, you can bring it down to 150. For every topic, there is a generic pattern. How to score the ideal marks? You will be paying attention to the appendage, extension. Will mechanically train you how to look, what is to be looked at. What is discussion? What is discuss? What is elucidate? What is elaborate? What is critically examine? What to write and what not to write. Now see about the 5 questions. Already 1 question of map pointing done. That means you can focus mostly on ancient India. Some of you who are weak with medieval can choose 2 questions from medieval India and the 3 questions from ancient India, thereby only focusing on the key topics preferred in your syllabus and solving the last 20 years. You will be able to solve 2 questions. That means 3 questions from ancient India and 2 questions from medieval India. For those students who are good with medieval India, choose it, you make it your expertise. You are accustomed to medieval India. You have done your share of research in the examination hall, or you improvise. You solve 3 questions and another only 1 question is from ancient India. Map pointing you're doing separately. That is also a very healthy advice. You prepare your strategy with some leg room to be improvised in the examination hall. Maybe you're thinking 10-2 combination in the hall, you decide 3-2 combination in the hall, you decide 2-3 combination. Only map pointing is to be done and another question from ancient India. That is also a very good deal, good bargain, I believe, that you can let go of ancient India. These are strategies I would want you to recommend. These are going to be very helpful for your preparation process. Now understand where the students lack information. There is a question for suppose Akbar, or suppose a question on feudal system. Here the students talk about in general what feudal system is. You, to get the ideal marks, have to quote historians. That means focus on historiography. You have to give the Burton-Stein model. You have to refer to the model of segmentary state. It is a brief discussion with 2 names, basic facts and figures. You prepare the notes accordingly and nothing will be going wrong. You will be given the ideal marks. If we do not quote the right historian, because history is not imaginary, it is a disciplinary subject. It needs strict contours. It is not imaginary. It cannot be mostly a reflected idea of the candidate. It is driven from ideas of the historians. It is not a difficult job. You offer, suppose you're preparing from Cholas. You prepare, suppose, the administration of the Cholas, the village administration, the local self-government, the maritime activity of the Cholas, and the element of art and culture. These are the topics. There is nothing beyond. Maritime activities, etc. You prepare for every topic. You maritime activity, you talk about sources. That is numismatic evidences, that is foreign accounts, that is archaeological evidences in India as well as outside. So here, once you prepared the sources, you talk about the developments and possibly 2 or 3 opinions about the historians. Your answer has to be ideal. You will be awarded the ideal marks. Now we think that we are rather disoriented because of our fear that it is bulky. For Mauryan, you want to prepare about the Mauryan state system. Again, you focus on sources. Sources are archaeological, sources are literary sources, Brahminical sources, not contemporary after that. Then there is Arthashastra, then there is accounts of Megasthenes, certain reflections of Megasthenes, that is accounts of later historians, European historians who have quoted Megasthenes. Also, you talk about the archaeological evidences, that is edicts, that is stupas, so on and so forth. And you discuss elaborately about the state and you talk about certain ideas and opinions about the different historians. Your answer has to be ideal. While preparing for them, it is not at all a difficult job. For suppose there is a question on religious practices of Akbar, or there is the Rajput policy of Akbar. You prepare about certain contemporary historians. What does Irfan Habib say? What does D.N. Jha say? What does Satish Chandra say? What does contemporary historians list? Again, while preparing the notes, there are only 4 lines that you have to prepare and mug them up. Trust me, it is an easy job. With repetition, you will get comfortable with it. And in the examination hall, there is going to be only 1 question on Mughal state system. You know that you have to present these ideas. Or at least there is an important chapter regarding historiography. You know what the Marxist approach suggests, a historian and their views. You know what the subaltern view suggests, the historian and their respective views. So in this way, writing the answers and fetch the ideal marks, it is rather an extremely easy job. Suppose there is a question on foreign accounts. It is not that the entire answer will be of historical facts and figures. It will be the continuous analysis of writings of Al-Masudi, it will be on Chachnama, it will be on Al-Biruni, it will be on Ibn Battuta and so on, Abdul Razak, so on. It should be reflected, it should be in continuum. It should be relishing to the evaluator. At the same time, it will have an idea, a balance of facts and information. The balancing factor that you will learn, that is the purpose of your history optional. Again,